Well, hello. My name is Lisa Cooper Ellison. I am an author, host of the Writing and Resilience podcast, and a trauma informed writing coach. The number one question that people ask me is, what is a trauma informed writing coach? So, in this video, I will answer that question, and I'm going to show you how understanding this term will help you better advocate for yourself, whether you are looking to get mental health services or you're working with someone on a writing project, and how you can use this information to protect your heart as you create powerful art that changes the world. So, in order for me to answer this question, I need to break that term down into its parts. So, we're going to begin with trauma. Okay, so trauma is a response the nervous system has to events when the intensity of the event overwhelms the system. So typically, this is something that is life threatening or that your nervous system sees as disturbing or upsetting. And while there are four common responses that we all have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, what the nervous system sees as traumatic is going to be dependent on how you see the world. So, one person can see something as highly traumatic, whereas someone else might not see that same event as a very big deal. So, what your nervous system determines to be traumatic is going to depend on how you are wired. So, if you are a highly sensitive person, so maybe you were just born with a highly sensitive nervous system, you may be more prone to seeing things as upsetting or perhaps traumatic. That can also be magnified for anyone if you have experienced a lot of childhood trauma and it has rewired your nervous system to be highly sensitive and therefore very hypervigilant. And it's not that one kind of nervous system is better than the other. It's just that understanding how you're wired can help you understand how to navigate this world. So that's a little bit about trauma. Now let's get into what it means to be a trauma informed practitioner. So, a trauma informed practitioner understands what trauma is and how it impacts the nervous system as related to the work they're going to do with you. And that's because you can be a trauma informed doctor, yoga practitioner, CEO of a company, judge. You can be trauma informed in any way. So it's important to understand that you can be trauma informed in a wide variety of fields. However, there are some things that are going to be similar with all people who are trauma informed. To truly be trauma informed means you're an expert in the field that you work in and you have additional training in how the nervous system works and how to regulate that. And that training can vary from person to person. So, in my case, I have an EDS in clinical mental health counseling. I also have advanced training in mindfulness meditation and I have studied polyvagal theory. So I have all of these different things that I bring to the table in addition to my expertise in writing. Another thing to know is that all people who are trauma informed adhere to a set of principles regarding safety. So you want to make sure that your experience is safe for the other person, that you are very trustworthy, that you are transparent, you're letting them know what's going to happen, and that you're collaborative. You're really listening to what the other person's goals are, what they want to do, and you're thinking about what skills are they bringing to the table in addition to the skills that you bring to the table so that you can work well together so that you are empowering the person. And one of the best ways to empower someone is to recognize the skills that they bring to the table and also to operate from a place of humility where you're really thinking about what your biases are and what your stumbling blocks may be and how that might impact the process. So, these are some ways that people are working under a trauma informed umbrella. So, if you ask someone if they're trauma informed, you want to be listening to how they describe the work they do and whether or not you're picking up on things that hit those different principles. Okay, so that leads to what is a coach? And I think this one is really important because we have a lot of coaches out there doing a lot of different things. And most people do not know the difference between, say, a coach and someone who is a mental health therapist. So I want to make that really clear right now. So, a coach is someone who's trained to help you achieve your goals. So, unlike a mental health therapist who is going to spend a lot of time delving into your past so that the past can be healed. Someone who works as a coach is going to be very focused on the present and how the present is leading you to the future. Now, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't think about the past or work with the past when you're working with a client, because the past always influences what's happening in the present. However, the level of depth that you get into when it comes to things from the past is a lot shallower than, say, someone who is working as a mental health therapist. And some of that is related to the level of training that someone might have. So, for instance, you can call yourself a coach and have any of a number of different kinds of training, from someone who has extensive training and experience to someone who has very little experience. There are no regulatory boards that are governing who is a coach. Whereas, when you talk about mental health, there are lots of regulatory boards that are focusing on that. So you want to ask the person that you're working with what kind of training they have, how they operate, how that might impact the goals that you have and their ability to support your goals. And then you can make an informed decision as to whether or not that person is the right person for you. And I want you to think about it on a person to person basis and really listen to the answers, because someone might have a lot of skills even if they don't have a lot of training. So, really keep an open mind and think about that, but also be very discerning and make sure that they have what you need. Because remember, I want you to protect your heart by getting what you need and getting the services that are going to support you best. So, okay, that's a coach in general. Now let's get into a writing coach. So, a writing coach is someone who is trained in the art of storytelling. They know how to give you excellent feedback on your written stories so that you can make them better. And that often includes making them clearer, more engaging. And they do this by being an excellent listener to you as you're talking, and also really listening to the story on the page, really reading carefully, giving you insightful questions that can help you make your work better. And they're always focused on advocating for the reader and helping you tell the very best story that you can tell. And while they might help you navigate some of the ups and downs that come with the writing process, like the doubts that we all face or the disappointments of rejection, or they might help you maintain your motivation when things get tough, their focus is on your story and on helping you publish it, not necessarily on holding space for all of the emotional ups and downs that you might face. And in fact, as a trauma informed writing coach, I'm very clear about the boundary between the work that I do with people and what they may ultimately need. So, let's get into what a trauma informed writing coach is. Okay, so a trauma informed writing coach has expertise in storytelling. They have that active listening ability to help you tell your very best story, and they understand how publishing works. And they also understand how trauma impacts the writing process and how to help you navigate and regulate yourself as you do this work. And so, a lot of people will say, oh, well, if you're a trauma informed writing coach, then you want me to be writing about my trauma. That's not necessarily true. In fact, there are many people that I work with where I tell them, don't write about your trauma, either now because things are going on in your life that make it difficult or make it so that doing that kind of work would not be helpful. Or I may tell people, you don't have to do this at all, because my goal is to help you regulate yourself as you write whatever it is you're supposed to write, because it's all personal in some way, rather than trying to get you to write about very specific things. So, as a trauma informed writing coach, I work in a very person first way that uses storytelling as a modality to heal wounds if you are working on very personal stories. And I do this by helping you make sense of what happens so that you can integrate it into your life. It can be something that makes sense and you understand, so you can let go of a lot of the emotions you have around it as you achieve your writing goals. So the work is focused on empowering you, freeing your voice, and helping you live your most authentic life by going after the goals that are most important to you and really helping you understand the stories you're telling yourself as you are writing the stories that you plan to share with other people. So it's really about helping you do both of those things so that whatever you decide to publish truly supports the world. And this is the most important part. We do this work so that when you actually publish, that publishing feels like the icing on the cake rather than the cake itself, because you have done all of the work to really have a solid foundation emotionally and psychically and intellectually as you think about publishing your work. So that's what a trauma informed writing coach is. If you want more trauma informed writing tips that will help you free your voice, harness your motivation, and write powerful, healing stories that change the world, subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out this video on how building writing rituals can prime your brain for creative work.